Okay, today you came to see me for your hip. It's been bugging you on the outside of your hip, hurts most after you've been sitting. You notice it when you've been sitting for a long period of time. When you stand up and move around, it kind of works itself out, but then you go back to the other things you need to do in life when you're sitting and it hurts again. So I wanted to show you on this anatomy app what we were talking about in terms of how the upper body has so much effect on the lower body and how those hips are feeling. Okay, so we're going to pull up this anatomy app, this pretty cool thing right here. Zoom out a little bit. All right, so take a look at this. Okay, so if this is where a lot of your hip pain is, and I see this in so many people, it gets sore around the outside of that hip. A lot of people come in and say, yeah, well, I think it's like someone told me it was maybe an iliotibial band issue. Well, yeah, sure. It definitely might be. This right here that I'm zooming in on, that is the iliotibial band. Okay. But what a lot of times we're not aware of is that that directly connects to a muscle. It's just connective tissue, and it connects to this muscle up here in the hip. Okay, the tensor fascia lata, if we wanna be specific. Okay, and then get out of there. Okay, now we've got our glutes, and you can just see how all of these things just really, really tie in together. Take a look at that guy, okay? So that tensor fascia lata, it's a long continuous thing, and it connects onto that iliotibial band that you may have heard more about, comes up, kind of turns into muscle right here, okay? But then look at what it does. It kind of turns back into muscle, and then it connects directly onto the hips, the iliac crest, the top of the hip bones. What else connects on there? Lots of other stuff. Okay, the muscles in our abdomen, our torso, our abdominals. Look how that is all interconnected. Okay, on this app it shows us like this little ridge of bone. Okay, but on ourselves, this is all still on a real person. This is all still covered with connective tissue. Okay, so what we talked about today for your hip, and I'm going to just come back out of here so I can see myself a little bit better, is why just doing things for the hip alone is likely going to be more irritating if something is already kind of screaming than just hammering on that part that's screaming is not helpful. What we have to do is step back and look at the whole orchestra of the body, okay, and how it all works together. So this is what we talked about you doing at home, all right? So when you're doing your stair stretches, which we know are helpful, okay, and this is one of the things that I have you doing at home. And you mentioned today, I asked you how far away from the stairs you stand, and you've been standing kind of like this, okay? Now that's okay. That's better than not doing it. But what we really need to do is step back from the stairs, get more length here, okay? So that we're really engaging all of those muscles that are involved with the hip from above. I'm going to go back and turn this guy around, okay? See how that is all interconnected? And I'm going to go ahead and remove some of this muscle so that we can see a little bit deeper under the abdominals, okay? Now, these awesome muscles that connect the leg bone to the pelvis, they also come and connect the leg bone right up to that lumbar spine. I mean, look at that. That's amazing. That muscle, the iliopsoas, goes from our femur, and it comes all the way up, and it attaches directly onto our spine. It's kind of amazing. Look at all this other tissue in here. We have all of these ligaments. Nothing is floating on its own. Nothing lives by itself in the body. It all interconnects together. So what we talked about today Step further back from your stairs. Get a longer stretch here. Start to circle around a little bit. Start to twist, start to turn, start to reach. Get this all involved in the stretch, because just this alone doesn't do it for the hip, okay? So if we're here and if you feel safe, you can even hang on to something and start to reach up so that we're gonna get all of that muscle more lengthened. See how nothing is straight up and down? It all wraps and interconnects. So we want to explore here. Put it on length and then explore. Okay? Now, why is this going to help the outside of that hip? Because we tend to stay in the patterns that we're in. Okay? So we're going to follow the path of least resistance. So if I take the same step length all the time, if I'm favoring one side or the other, see how I might be going over here more to one side than the other, then that's the pattern that's going to break down tissue. All right. So when we're walking, we want to challenge ourselves with 5 or 10 longer steps. We want to challenge ourselves with 5 or 10 wider steps, like the monkeys, right? We want to maybe cross over 10 or 20 crossover steps. Get some variety in those steps. And that pain on the outside of the hip is coming because it's getting too much pressure on it and the rest of the body isn't helping out. Okay? So that's where we're going to start. Oh, and for your sideways stair stretch, same thing. If we're too close to the step, probably not going to do anything. But if this is your first time doing this kind of thing, go ahead, start a little closer to the step. Say, all right, well, I don't feel much stretch there. I'm going to get a little further away. Still not feeling that much. I'm going to get a little further away. Okay, now I feel it. Now I'm getting some stretch in here. I'm getting some stretch in here. Stay on length. We've lengthened that out. Now move a little bit. Now get a little movement in there. Reach up a little bit like that. See this line from my leg all the way up through my torso to this arm? Everything is connected, okay? We want to use the connections that we have in our body to move better together. We're going to start to add a little bit more muscle back in. We're going to zoom out on this guy. See how all those inner thigh muscles there, they're attached from the leg bone up into the pelvis. Then they're overlapped with muscles that attach from the pelvis up into the spine. Then they're overlapped with muscles that attach to the ribs, okay? It's endless how we're connected. So we want to make sure, if we're going to put some time into feeling better, that we're doing things that actually help, okay? We might be here and go up and down a little bit. Explore, move, own your space so that one space doesn't get overdone and overused and sore. All right, we'll be back at it.